In July 2015, I had the privilege of being in the same room with one of the richest men that I know. So this person is undoubtedly amongst the richest men in Jamaica. He has several different businesses, he has real estate, he's into hotels, and he has different car dealerships as well. So this wasn't a planned meeting. It was a meeting between the company that I was working for at the time and a company that he's the chairman of. And he wanted to have a meeting to discuss certain things between both companies. So we both arrived at the meeting early, and of course I took it upon myself to actually ask him some questions about life and about being rich. And in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you the 3 lessons that I actually learned from that person in that very short meeting. So if you want to learn exactly what those 3 lessons are, then I highly recommend that you watch this entire video. Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying on this video. I really appreciate it. If this is your first time here, my name is Kirk Buchanan, and on this channel I teach people how to start and grow their own e-commerce businesses. So if you've always wanted to learn exactly how you could start and grow your own e-commerce brand and business, then I highly suggest that you get subscribed to my channel and you check the first link in this video description where you can find more resources. Okay, with that said, let me dive into it and share with you the 3 lessons that I learned from the richest person that I know. Okay, so one of the things that I really like to do and started doing a whole lot more perhaps 5 or 6 years ago was to start paying attention to successful people. So I started to study successful people because I wanted to find clues on how to become successful. So whenever I get a chance to actually talk to someone who is successful or to read a book about someone who became successful, I always took that opportunity to do so. So as I mentioned earlier, a few years ago, perhaps 3 or 4 years ago, I had a chance to actually talk to a very successful businessman right here in Jamaica, and I got some very insightful information that I've only shared with people that are really close to me. So I've never publicly discussed this information in a video or any other form of medium, but today I'm going to be sharing the 3 lessons that I learned from this super successful person. And this information that I'm going to be sharing with you is also information that is echoed by other successful people, super successful people as well, which is an indication to me that this information is absolutely valid. So I'm not going to be wasting any more time. I'm just going to be diving into it right now to share with you the exact 3 lessons that this person taught me that basically changed my life and continues to change my life every single day. So the question that I asked this person was, what insight would you give to someone who is starting from scratch that wants to get rich? And these were his exact responses. So the first lesson that he gave me that really resonated and perhaps have a bigger impact on me today than it did when I first heard it was that you earn in direct proportion to the amount of value that you bring to the world. So I'm sure when he said that to me, I understood clearly what he meant, but I didn't take enough action to make sure that I was adding enough value to the world that would set me up for success in the future. But subsequent to that, I started doing exactly what I needed to do to make sure that I was impacting people and I was bringing value to the world. And this one statement is very important and it's so effective. I've tested it across several different successful people, and what I've found is that every successful person that I've tested this statement against actually proves it to be true. So you could take a Bill Gates, you could take Mark Zuckerberg, you could take Jeff Bezos, you could take any mega successful person that you can think of, and what you'll realize is that they actually bring value, enormous amount of value to the world, and that is what made them successful. So let's take Bill Gates for example. So what Bill Gates did was he made personal computing accessible to almost every single person in the world. That's massive value that he brought to the world, and that is why he's one of the richest men in the world. Let's take a Mark Zuckerberg for example. he actually made communication accessible to almost every single person in the world. So now you can use Facebook, for example, to communicate with someone in Australia or wherever in the world that person is. And that is massive value that Mark brought to the world. And that is why he's super successful. So any successful person that you can identify, you can take this particular statement and test it against that successful person, and you will realize that it proves to be true. So you have to bring value to people, and the more people that you bring value to, this will determine if you're successful or not. So make sure that you're trying your very best to bring as much value to as many people as you possibly can. And that's the first lesson that I learned from this person. So the second lesson that he shared with me is something that is very important, but most people who want to become successful these days wish it wasn't true. And what he said to me was that success takes time. And he said it to me in those exact words, and then he followed up by saying, hey, I've been in business for approximately 20 years, and in my first 5 years I was a massive failure. So what he proceeded to say to me after that was that you shouldn't give up, and you have to be persistent, and you have to be willing to grind out the bad days. And after those bad days, then that is when success will arrive. And this is something that you will hear echoed by a lot of other super successful people. If you read self-help books, this is something that is always spoken about in those books. You have to be willing to be in business for a very long time in order for you to be successful. So success is something that takes a very long time. It seldom happens overnight. So if you want overnight success, then maybe you should give up on being successful, because success actually takes a very long time. So subsequent to me having that discussion with him, I've actually read 2 books on this very topic, and those 2 books are The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy and The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson. And those are 2 books that speaks a lot about what it takes to become successful and how to actually become successful and grind out the tough days. So I highly recommend those 2 books for people who want to understand what it takes to actually become successful. So I've read those 2 books, so I know what I have ahead of me in order for me to become successful. So if you want to become successful as well, and if you believe that this is what it takes to become successful, which I highly recommend you do since it's coming from super successful people, then you have to be prepared to work for a very long time and know that success takes time to happen. Okay, so the third lesson that he shared with me, which is quite possibly my favorite of all 3 lessons, and something that I really want you to pay very close attention to if you really want to learn how the rich got rich and how you can get rich, is that you should learn how to use leverage in your life to your advantage. So at that time, perhaps I didn't understand exactly what he meant by leverage and how to use leverage to my advantage. But then he proceeded to say to me that if you really want to get rich in a single lifetime, it's almost impossible for you to do it working a 9-to-5, because working a 9-to-5, you're trading time for money, which means you don't have much leverage. You get paid in direct proportion to the number of hours that you work. So I did what any other well-thinking person would have done, and I started to research exactly how you can create leverage for yourself to increase your chances of becoming rich by increasing your income. And 3 of the core ways that you could do this is to start a business. When you start a business, you're creating leverage. You're leveraging your income because you can actually outsource that business, or you could hire people to run that business for you, which will free up your time so you could actually start looking at other income streams. Another way to create leverage in your life to increase your income is to invest into something such as real estate. So one of my favorite books that I recommend to people at all time that talks a lot about creating leverage and especially investing in real estate is Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. If you have not yet read that book, I highly recommend you read that book, and it will will help you to learn exactly how you could create leverage to increase your income and to increase your wealth. And finally, the last way that you can actually create leverage around your life to increase your income is to invest into digital assets. So you could start creating digital assets. So this could mean creating content on YouTube or creating content on Facebook, Instagram, creating a podcast, doing something where you could actually have some intellectual property in the digital format. And the world is moving so fast to this digital utopia, so it's a great place to start investing your time. Okay, so to summarize, the 3 lessons that I learned from someone who is quite possibly the richest person that I've ever interacted with is that you should know that you earn in direct proportion to the amount of value that you bring to the world, and that success takes time, and you should be mindful of the compound effect, and that you should use leverage to your advantage. So I really do hope you found a lot of value in this video, and if you did, please let me know by dropping a like on this video. If you know someone would benefit from this video, please go ahead and share this video with that person. And finally, I want to thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video.